Good morning and good evening to our friends in Chile who have joined us from Santiago. My name is Robert Trepsky and I am the Chief Operating Officer with Osmine and will be your host for today's webinar, BHP Open Innovation Challenges in Chile. I would like to welcome our members, our supporters and all our Osmine friends to enjoy this truly trans-Pacific webinar, which will feature speakers from BHP and Expander, both from Santiago de Chile. Today's presentation will introduce you to a collaborative approach between two organizations that use the open innovation methodology to solve solutions for operational and technical challenges at sites across Chile. You will hear more in detail on this approach from both speakers shortly. Some of you might have already be familiar with the Expander Open Innovation Program. Some of you might have already engaged with Expander on resolving the challenges in Chile, but today's presentation will add Osmine to the game in supporting the process of identifying solutions providers among Australian METs and how we assist expanding the BHP supply base for the challenges in Chile. This collaborative approach will provide Australian METs with the vehicle to access supply opportunities in Chile and in the region, connect with key players among the local companies, mining companies, and develop collaboration pathways with local suppliers. The main objective of today's session is to explain how the expanded program is and how BHP launches the innovation challenges through the program and how Australian companies can maximize opportunities to get involved. Today's agenda we'll start a presentation by next slide. Today's agenda will start a presentation by Expander. We'll provide an overview of how Expander works and what you need to know to get involved in the program. We will have a presentation by BHP on the open innovation, and that will introduce you to the process. I will then share with you some details on the upcoming collaboration program between BHP and Osmine that aims at identifying solutions for challenges at the operations in Australia. And finally, we'll run the audience Q&A online, and I would like to provide some housekeeping formalities how to run this Q&A session. Next slide, please. As this webinar is being recorded, so you can access this presentations online after the webinar. But for the Q&A session, we will be using the Vivox platform, which will allow you to submit questions throughout the webinar. The Vivox page is, as you can see, www.vivox.com, and the meeting code is 131813439. On your phone, you can download the Vivox. It's a vivox.app. When submitting a question, there's a certain order. Please enter one question at a time. Vivox gives you the option to click on like to basically rate other people's questions. And in this way, we will answer the questions in a preference of ranking. We hope to respond to all the questions, but given the time constraints, we will basically select the most relevant and representative questions. We will activate a survey in Vivox that will give you the opportunity to rate and submit your feedback on improving these sessions. Now, next slide, please. I have now the pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Andrés Mitnick, who's Business Director at Expander, which is part of the Fundación Chile. Andrés will provide us with an overview of Expander's innovation approach, how Expander works with BHP on their challenges in Chile, and how you can participate in the program if you have the right solution to offer. I now hand over to Andrés.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be able to be presenting here and see such a big interest from the Australian ecosystem. I would start by addressing that it's a great opportunity that BHP is giving us now, working with two open innovation programs in Chile and in Australia, and we really expect to have a lot of cross-pollination among both ecosystems. This methodology is all about collaboration. It's collaboration between a large mining corporation and suppliers, and also among suppliers as well. And that's what we try to foster. So Cami, if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so Expande is an open innovation platform. We have been around for since 2017, but we have grown on a lot of previous efforts and a lot of lessons learned. And through those efforts, we have been able to map what open innovation is, and it has several different flavors, as you can see here. We are not on every single one, and that's because of very important reasons. For example, as you can see, we do not do corporate venture capital, and we do not invest in companies, because for us, keeping neutrality in the ecosystem is key. We do not want to be invested in any company that can bias our decisions of what we present to mining corporations. So basically what we do is we manage challenges, and that's under the idea contest. We have different methodologies for them, but basically it's a problem for which we look up for solutions. We also in Chile run a scale-up program for companies with high potential, and these are selected group of companies that we help grow, access funding, go overseas, and also we help them find partners in other locations. So if any of the companies that are here with us today are looking for a partner in Chile, perhaps we could help finding that partner or make some recommendations. To be able to serve our clients and to have a relevant group of companies that we select for each challenge, we do constant scouting. And in the technology business, scouting never ends. So we might know a company, any of you today, and probably in 6 months or a year time, you will develop a new solution, and you're very dynamic. So we never stop scouting, and we foster companies or ask companies to engage constantly with us to let us know their latest development in order for us to consider them for these challenges. We also do mentorship for local companies, and we do a lot of networking events. This is one example. We do several of those in Chile, and we're working in creating a broader community that we hope to have some news soon. Next, please. The most basic starting point for us is falling in love with the problem. So that's open innovation for us. Is we do not try to replace a supply area or to solve problems that supply have not been able to address because of their own issues. We're looking for things that are outside that realm. We try to look for innovative solutions wherever they arise. For a big mining company, it's hard to be aware of every single place that innovation is coming from. And that's where we play the role. But in order to do that, in order to bring new technologies and new ideas into mining, what we post are problems. And this is very different from a regular tender in the sense that we do not detail what we want, so we can compare apples to apples. We post a problem and expect a broad set of approaches and solutions to deal with the problem. That's what our clients look for, or BHP looks for, when they work with us. And that's a very different approach. And that's why I'm so happy that we have this program also running in Australia, because it's not easy to get used to this methodology when you're used to participating in tenders. That's why when you look at and expand the process, you will realize that the information is not as deep as in a regular tender, but that's not because we don't have the information, it's because we do not want to bias the solutions. So we ask you to actually use that information that we provide to create innovative proposals, and not at a conceptual level initially, and not very detailed. And that's something that I would like to stress, because many times we get questions regarding, is there more information on this area, or is any more data available? And the answer is, if you get awarded, for sure you will get more. But now we want you to develop a conceptual solution or a proposal with what we're proposing you, because we want to be as broad as possible. Next, please. In these 2 years, we have several KPIs that show that the process actually is working, and we're very glad. Honestly, in Chile, we've been trying to do this for more than 10 years, and we feel like right now we have found a way. So right now we work with 19 mining operations. Our 4 clients, which are Codelco, BHP, Antofagasta Minerals, and Tech, control over 80% of Chile's copper production. We have a database of over 885 suppliers, which encompass more than 1,000 solutions. We have helped sign 99 contracts. 70 of them are pilots and 29 are service contracts. This is relevant because our internal KPIs are how many contracts we help sign. That's how they measure us. So whenever an expanded challenge is up there and you see it, it's because actually it's a problem that someone has in the operation and is looking for a way to solve it. We do not post things that don't end up or that no one has the will to end into a contract, because that doesn't help our own internal KPIs. And that's very different from many other open innovation platforms. These contracts encompass around $23 million. And also we have a bunch of startups, enlarged business, access funding, and we have done a lot of ecosystem events where we provide, where we showcase technologies to the industry, and we do that in different ways. We publish books and we publish videos. Next, please. The process is not rocket science. Our main lever is the fact that we have mining companies on board, and they have trusted us to manage this process. Basically, mining companies give us problems, which we transform into challenges. We do not have a say in what mining companies need. That's an internal process, and that's because if we want this to end up in potential contracts, it needs to be something that the operation wants. We do not push technology. It's a pull process. It's pulled by the operation. We get these challenges, we scout, we go everywhere, we have no bias, so we work with SMEs, startups, larger corporations, research centers, and also an international network, as you probably, if you have participated, you have come to realize. And then we prepare a shortlist, which then get invited to the lunch, which BHP will go in further details in their presentation. Next, please. All of our challenges are posted in our web. Our web is www.expandemineria.cl. It's in Spanish and in English. There is just an example of how you would see them. You can click in them and you will get the details. And from there, you can actually sign to participate in the challenge. Next, please. To participate in a challenge, we use a platform called Bright Idea. So once you press apply, you will see this kind of screen where you will have to register. If you need to do this one time, but you see down there, there's a button to register. Then you will be asked for your basic information. And this is a login that is company by company, just to avoid any confusion. It's not Ostmine, it's not any other ones, but each single company that gets log in and register. So that's the first step you need to do to participate in the challenges. And once you do that, you will be ready to apply to any challenge that we post online. And next, please. And finally, I would like to remind you of something that you might have seen. We're soon gonna launch a huge challenge with BHP. It's called 10 million tailings. Basically, BHP is making available $10 million in prizes for companies that are able to transform their tailings into valuable materials that then can be sold into the market. So use circular economy to decrease the environmental hazard that tailings create. This is going to be around a 2-year process, and very soon we're going to be able to provide further information, as this is in our webpage as well. So if you think you have an interesting technology, you think you might be willing to transform tailings into something else, please be aware, because this is going to be a very interesting and disruptive process. The webpage where you can access the information is tailingschallenge.com, Right now, the information is a bit not up to date, but pretty soon we will get the final update. And with that, I finalize my presentation. Thank you, everyone, for the attention.
Thank you, Andres, for this insightful presentation and for sharing how Australian Mets can engage with expanding, responding to these and current and future challenges. Just a reminder that the current challenges are listed on our website, on the OSMI website, on the supply opportunity. And we will be obviously marketing these challenges through our newsletters and supporting Expander. Also, the good news is that the $10 million challenge is in the US dollars, so that makes it more appealing to everyone. Just a reminder that when you submit the questions, those of you who have not part of the introduction, we're using a platform, www.vevox.com, and the access code is 131813439. So this is basically the platform for questions for the audience Q&A. And I would like now to invite our second speaker, Maria Jose Aranda, the Superintendent of Supply Innovation, BHP Chile, who will share with us insights on BHP's Supply Innovation Program, how it works, and the new approach of working with suppliers on smart solutions to challenges in Chile and beyond. Without much ado, I would like to invite Maria to give a presentation.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. I would like to give you an idea of what we do, why we do it, and then how you can apply and explain the process. I want to take the last words of Andres on that tailings challenge. It's really important for us. Like, we are looking for the most innovative companies, startups, consortia, research centers, universities, you name it. We are open to finding new solutions. The motto of this is to unleash the power of the circular economy. We want to find new models where we can repurpose our tailings. So it's really challenging, and we really want you to put your brains on it and apply to, if you think you can find new partners to do it, please, we want consortia to participate because we need a lot of capability to solve this one because, you know, tailings is a big challenge for the industry. So moving on, can you show the next? Okay, so this presentation is based on a lot of feedback that we've received over the years that we've handled this process together with Expanded. This feedback has come from suppliers from abroad and also from national suppliers. So it's basically explaining the process and answer to some of your questions, concerns, and also your the ideas that you've given us to improve. So the next one, please. What is our purpose? We want to use our business challenges to spark innovation and create shared value for BHP or communities in the countries where we operate. Through collaboration and trust in action, we empower an ecosystem of innovation, delivering value for all. So this is a lot of beautiful words in a piece of paper, but they are really meaningful to us, and there's a lot of action against all of them. It's really important that we think that we can spark innovation out of our challenges. We are basically the fuel feeding an ecosystem that can deliver these solutions to our many and big challenges. And we also think that the way to do this is in collaboration, trusting each other, working together in a way that we can create value for you, for us, and for the countries where we operate. Next one, please. The way we do this is by connecting ecosystems. It is by connecting ourselves, our company, BHP, that is technology, supply, operations, and projects, working together to identify what our biggest challenges are, prioritize them, see where we can, if we need innovation to solve them, and then put them out to this outside ecosystem where you participate, where big corporates, risk capital, government, universities, and entrepreneur suppliers are with the right connections, communicating and creating new solutions. And then take those new solutions back to our operations and be able to try them, and to try them in an agile manner. So it's identifying those key challenges. As Andres pointed out, this is a pull process where we find the need, then we put a challenge out, and then when we find the solution from this ecosystem, to be able to make a trial on site, a pilot, and if it works, then implement it, and be quick in doing this. And Expande supports this process in the external ecosystem, basically making the right connections, and Osmine is one of the partners that supports this in Australia as well. Also reaching out to networks, not only in Australia, but also in Canada, in Germany, of course in Chile, and the idea is that the most diversity of ideas we get, the better the process works, because that's how we can find new capability, and if that capability doesn't exist, then we can bring it in and build it. Next one, please. This is the process that we handle. So basically, we identify the challenges, then we pilot, then we review if it works or not, and then we implement. We focus on the characterization, pilot, and KPI review, and then if it works, the implementation is part of another stage. So the first stage of characterization is within BHP identifying those most critical challenges, and then start a selection process for those critical challenges together with Expande. They reach out to you and find suppliers. We do a workshop to explain the challenge, and then after documentation is being sent, we award a pilot. That pilot is divided in different stages so that we can go and de-risking the technology. We also set KPIs to see if we are getting closer to solving the challenge. At the end of the pilot, we check if it worked or not against the KPI, and then if it worked, we move to the implementation or transfer, where the implementation of the solution is done at full scale, and we transfer to other assets, both in Chile or in Australia or in America, if it's applicable. The next one, please. As I said, the way it works is first the kickoff session. That's when the team of BHP gets together with Expande. We describe the challenge to Expande, then they post the challenge online, and we start the scouting. The scouting is done, and a long list of suppliers is suggested to BHP, who review the list. Then a short list is notified that they will be attending the launch. They are given documentation on the challenge, information, and then they participate in an event called the launch. Since now we are in the COVID-19 world, we are doing these events remotely, and it's a three-stage thing. We explain how the process works, then what the challenge is, and then suppliers get to do a 5-minute pitch. Then 2 or 3 weeks after that, the technical and economic proposals are presented, and approximately, on average, 3 months after that, we award the pilot. Okay, and I give more detail on that. So next one, please. As I said, the launch has 3 events. First is an administrative launch where we explain the process. So what you need to do to participate, what's the documentation, how it works. Then in the second session, we have the technical launch. That means that a person from operations is going to explain directly what the problem they have is, and suppliers will get to ask all the questions they have to be really clear on what the challenge is. 2 weeks, and then they have a preliminary pitch. The preliminary pitch is an opportunity to expose the solution, so what you are thinking, privately to the champion of the project, and then BHP gives feedback on that solution, saying if it's viable or not, and giving feedback so that the final proposal is more accurate to the reality that we live in operations. Okay? The next one, please. And here I have a summary of improvements that we are making based on the feedback that we've got from you. So first, in the scouting and prequalification, we are doing that as soon in the process as possible. So right now, you are able to find all of our challenges online in the expanded webpage. So all of those kickoffs have been done, the descriptions are up, and they are published in the webpage, so you can go and you can register in the expanded webpage to participate and to be considered for that long list. We need to be very clear that all suppliers need to apply through Bright Idea, which is the platform that Expanded has for managing these challenges. That's the only way that you can make yourself visible and that you can participate in this process. And we handle the process through that platform because it gives traceability of this process. All the information is handled in a safe way, and we can really manage the process closely that way. All suppliers that applied get a notification of pre-qualification status 1 or 2 weeks before the launch. So you will know if you pre-qualified or not for the event. Then in the launch and awarding stage, you need to know that all the information is in the platform Bright Idea. We don't handle the process through email, it is through that platform. We are going to include the evaluation criteria that you need to meet in the administrative launch. We are going to share that information. That is something that suppliers ask for, so we're going to share it. Also, we want to stress that the preliminary pitch objective is to give orientation on the final proposal. We don't want to filter the proposals at that stage. We want to know what you are thinking, what your proposal could look like, so that we can tell you upfront if that can work or not, so that when you present your final proposal, you have that information, okay? And that's the objective. Then the technical and economic proposals are due 2 weeks after the challenge, basically because we want to keep this process agile, because we want to keep the attention of operations in this process, and it's really important to keep a rapid pace for that. Of course, in this situation that we are living now, where things are done remotely and probably we are not as agile as we were before, we are giving more time and we have more flexibility in the process. All suppliers that attend the launch are expected to turn in proposals using our templates. We provide templates for you to present your proposals, and it's really important that you use those templates to turn in your proposals. And everybody that participates in the launch is expected to turn in a final proposal. Then on feedback and information, we've heard from suppliers that they need more information and feedback throughout the process. So first, the launch date will be available upfront. So when you go into the webpage and you click in one of the challenges that is posted, you will be able to see what's the timeline for that challenge. Also, as I said, we are including the evaluation criteria in the administrative launch so that you know what the conditions are that you will be rated against. Then give regular information on progress of the challenge, and that will be published in Bright Idea. And if something gets dramatically delayed for some reason, we will give that information also. Also, we will notify suppliers that don't pass the technical evaluation, because when we evaluate these proposals, it's in 2 stages. First, we do the technical evaluation, and those suppliers that pass the technical evaluation, those go into a negotiation stage. We consider after they pass the technical evaluation, we consider their economic proposals and we start a conversation or negotiation, okay? So what we were doing before is that we would notify everybody at the end of the process when we awarded the contract, the status and the awarding. What we are doing now is splitting this into stages. We will notify those who didn't meet the technical criteria. And after that, when we finally award the process, we will notify those who had made the technical cut and were in the conversations of negotiation. Also, we will give feedback on why you didn't meet the criteria. And I think that's really useful. Suppliers always want to know why they didn't make it. And I think it's part of the value of the process to be able to provide that information. And we will also make our list or portfolio of projects available in the Expander webpage so that you can see what are the projects we are working, also what are the suppliers that are working in those projects and what stage they are at. And I think that's also important in terms of transparency, that you see what happened with the process in the end, and if you were not awarded, who was. And I think that is some feedback that we got from many suppliers from all over Chilean and international. So I think that is something that will be greatly appreciated. Next one. This is a list of challenges that are coming up soon. These are the ones that are still open in the Expander webpage for you to apply. So if you see something interesting here, I really recommend you to go into the Expander webpage to check out what is there. And that's the only way that you will be able to participate in these challenges. Next one, please. Well, I really encourage you to go into the webpage to check the challenges that are out there. If you have questions, we can make them through the Bright Idea platform. Expanded team are always looking at those and giving feedback. So we really expect that you will be participating in this. I would also like to point out that now we are setting up a supply innovation team in Australia who's going to be launching their own challenges. So stay tuned for what is coming in Australia on supply innovation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So thank you very much for this inspiring presentation. We are very pleased to share this innovative approach of working with suppliers globally in a fast and effective way. There's a welcome change of removing a lot of red tape hurdles from the traditional approach of buyer-supplier dealings. Again, a reminder for the following my presentation, for the following Q&A with the audience, please use the VVox platform, www.vevox.com, and the access code is 131813439. So that leads to the third presentation, which I'm going to deliver on behalf of Osmine, and share with you details on a very similar program as Maria mentioned earlier that Osmine is currently developing with BHP for challenges of the operations in the Pilbara, Olympic Dam, and the coal mines. As you might already know, Osmine and BHP signed a strategic partnership agreement in February this year. The primary purpose of this partnership is to maximize value chain opportunities and strengthen the competitiveness of the Australian mets and mining sectors. We will jointly deliver a range of activities, including webinars, technical briefing, mine site visits, and programs related to supply innovation over the next months and years. These activities will allow Osmine members and the wider METS community to more effectively connect with BHP at different levels and at different sites. And in particular, smaller SMEs will have a new platform to develop a sustainable brand and reputation for trialing new products and services. As mentioned earlier, BHP and Osmine are currently developing a new open innovation program in Australia that will have a similar approach to the Expanders program. Whilst the official launch of the program is foreseen to take place online at the end of May, and we will be announcing the exact dates very soon, I would like to draw your attention to a pilot project with a supply opportunity for Australian METS companies with the BHP Mitsubishi Alliance, or BMA. Next slide, please. Without going too much detail, this supply opportunity exists at BMA's Caval Ridge mine in Queensland and looks at smart solutions to minimize the risk of man-machine interaction during maintenance and their coal wash plants. This is all I would like to share with you because there will be more details and a full webinar basically disclosing more details. And this webinar will be held on the 21st of May, on a Thursday, 21st of May, between 12 and 1 p.m. Australia Eastern Standard Time. Sorry for that. So it's just the Sydney time. And at this webinar, we'll provide details on the challenge on site, the process flow of the project, how you can participate in the project, and how to respond to with a solution. Stay tuned, as we'll be marketing this webinar via Osmo Media channels beginning next week. And if you want more information on how to register, please visit our website. If you have any other queries, please contact me directly on the details below. Next slide. So this leads us now to the Q&A session. So I would invite again Maria, Jose, and Andres to join me for this Q&A session. Are there any questions that we can respond to?
Yes, we actually have been quite active with the questions. So now I'm going to ask Matthias to share his screen so we can.
Hello, everyone. I will share my screen now, and we will be answering most of the questions that you have. Hopefully all of them. We remind you that through the portal you can upvote or like the questions, and that's the priority in which they will be answered. So I trust you can see my screen properly now.
We can.
Yes.
Excellent.
I would like to also introduce the other people that we have in the room. I would like to introduce Camila Cáceres. She's part of the team in Australia and also the BHP team in Australia. Also, Matias Ortega, he's part of the expanded team. He's actually the one that handles the proposals that and the applications that you send. So he's really important.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Okay,
so, I see.
The first question is, how is the intellect? Yes, Maria Jose?
Go ahead, sorry.
How is the intellectual property controlled?
Yes, so there are 2 or 3 ways to control it. First, when you apply to the expanded platform, there's some terms and conditions where basically they talk about confidentiality and not sharing your information with anybody else. Then when you are pre-qualified to the challenge, there are like the tender specifications or terms and conditions of the tender, where also clauses of non-disclosure are set there so that we are not going to publish any of your information to anybody else. And then if you're awarded the contract, the IP is basically yours or the suppliers. The previous IP is of everybody who owned it before, and the IP that gets created throughout the project, that is owned by the supplier, because what we want to achieve through this process is sustainable companies that can deliver these kind of services or products that get created, not only to us, but also to the rest of the mining industry and also to other industries, because when we are looking for solutions, everybody is probably. So I hope that answered the questions. I don't know if Andres or Matias want to say something else.
I would just complement with the fact that one for us is key for the AP to stay in the suppliers and all expanded processes work that way. Basically, because we want, if you are able to solve a problem for BHP, and let's say Codelco has the same problem, it's in our interest to transfer the technology and to help you help Codelco as well. We want to grow, as I said before, collaboratively. So mining companies work collaboratively with Expande, suppliers work collaboratively with Expande. So in that regard, it makes no sense to keep IP by the mining corporations because it goes against the philosophy of the project.
Thank you, Andres. Next question. In your opinion, which are the most common failures from Australian METs when they participate or submit their proposals?
Probably Camila can help you on this one. I don't think it's an Australian thing. I think it's like international companies. I think it has to do with the scope that you think you're applying to. It is a pilot, so keep in mind that it is a pilot, it's not full implementation. That means that it's a more reduced scope. It's not the whole operation. I think that's the most common that I would see. I don't know, Camila, if you remember others.
No, I agree. I think that the scale of the pilot that international companies present are like much bigger and therefore much expensive. Whether we're trying to do innovation, so we're trying to pilot something that proves the idea behind, but not necessarily to cover everything on this first stage. So that's the first thing. And the other one I would say is like the support that you, as you are in an international company, you need to be better and making sure how you're going to support the operation in Chile. And maybe that's going to be through a partnership, or basically how are you going to solve the problems if you are like on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, and I would only add.
Go ahead.
I would only add that it's also a question of scope. Many times companies think that they're participating in a tender with regular tender rules. And again, this is not a regular tender. This is a challenge. And the information you get is not as detailed as you would expect for a tender. And international companies sometimes do not understand this process, and their proposals get out of scope because of that.
Everyone?
I think there's one last thing in terms of the scope. Usually you want to solve the challenge with everything you have, because you have the best technology, the best solution, and you think that will make a strong proposal. But remember that we are looking for a pilot, that's the scope, and also that we are looking for a solution to a challenge that we have on site. So probably start by suggesting the basic solution, and then if you think that you can go an extra mile, separate that as a complementary, not complementary, but it is do the basic solution and then go scaling it up in terms of the proposal. So say, this is my preliminary solution. If you want to solve the challenge even more, then we can add this, and that feature, and that costs that extra. In that way, you make sure that you don't make your proposal too expensive up front with things that might be unnecessary for the scope of the challenge. I think that is another lesson learned that we've seen in other proposals.
Are BHP looking at this globally or just in Chile?
It's globally in the end. That's why we are doing this call here. We are setting up this type of model not only in Chile but also in Australia. That's why Cami is here in this presentation, and also that's why the partnership with Osmine is there. I think that the scope is we want suppliers not only from Chile to participate, but also from all over the world. And we also want suppliers from Chile to participate in Australia's challenges as well.
Do we need to have a presence in Chile in order to participate?
Not necessarily. What we do say in the specification and the conditions is that you create local content somehow. And that has to be aligned with your company strategy. We cannot tell you how to create that local content. It could be through partnership with a local supplier. It could be through working together with some university. It could be in many ways that I cannot think of right now. So it's basically up to you. But the important thing is that you think that some of this capability that you're bringing to the table needs to stay in Chile so that you can give a sustainable service.
Yeah, and only to complement that, that local content that Maria Jose mentioned is not required for the pilot. It's actually required if this moves to implementation. So you don't need to have a huge overseas structure to apply for a pilot. You will need to develop that capability afterwards if it's successful.
Don't get pre-qualified. What is done with the information you have supplied?
So if you don't,
yeah,
I can take this one. Great, thanks. So it's added to our database, and whenever new challenges related to the one that you applied to come up, then you could be invited directly to participate and to make a submission, an application. But still, you should try to check the website regularly to see if any of the available challenges may be interesting for you, or you may have the capabilities, because even if we added your previous solution to our database, it may not necessarily come up on a related challenge. Did you want to add something, Andres?
No, sounds perfect. Yeah.
Great. Will all of today's presentations be made available to the attendees?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I can answer this. Yes, it will be. They will be on the OSMI website. Allow us maybe a couple of hours, so maybe just basically to upload these. But yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. Australian Mets not always receive proper feedback on why their solutions did not progress to next stage and get frustrated and not willing to participate again. Is there any way you can improve this situation?
Thank you, Valeria, for the question. Yes, we're working on that. We know that we are awful at feedback. We actually are implementing different changes, small changes in our processes to be able to capture that feedback at the right time and be able to give it when the process ends. So as I said, there are many stages. First, there is the pre-qualification, the long list that is given to operations by Expande. Suppliers that didn't make that long list, and if they ask, they get the reasons why they didn't make that cut. Then if we as BHP took out of that list any suppliers, we will provide expanded information on why we were taking them out of that long list so that they can provide that information if the supplier asks. And then, as I said, we split the evaluation process first in the technical one. And if people didn't make the technical cut, we are capturing the feedback on why they didn't and giving that information to every supplier. And then at the end of the process, for those 3 that were still in the conversation and negotiation, we are also giving them feedback. So we acknowledge, we got that feedback, we heard you. So now we're making improvements to address that. Don't expect that it will be a page-long feedback. It will probably be a paragraph addressing the criteria that were not strong, okay?
Great, thank you, Maria Jose. Do you have examples of successful Australian Mets application you can give us?
I don't think I can think of one right now.
Well, I think that we could not share the information because it's all under confidentiality. But we do have some successful applications from international companies. I'm not sure about an Australian company right now, but international players have been successful in expanded processes, if that answers your question.
Thank you, Andres and Maria Jose. During COVID, how do you recommend we keep contact with technical teams at the mine so the results from a pilot are seen and understood by the mine's leadership?
So the way that we are handling our mines right now is with the minimum people, keeping production and focusing on staying safe, healthy, and keep the production running. So at this point, we are prioritizing those activities in these kind of projects that are done outside of the mine. Okay, and we keep the information flow so that updates are given regularly and that feedback is gotten. But all those activities that were supposed to be done at the mine, those have been delayed for this project because of this reason.
Remember, everyone, to keep voting for the questions you are more relevant to you or that you want to see answered sooner. We will, of course, try to get to all the questions, but there may be too many. So like them or upvote them so that they can be answered. Who funds the pilot plant?
It's not always going to be a pilot plant, but we fund the pilot project.
Great. What is the website to check what challenges are active? The website is expandemineria.cl/en/challenges. Maybe Andres can help me out with that and type it in the WebEx chat, please, since I can't leave this screen.
Definitely, no. It is Michelle did that for us. And now it's on the WebEx question board, and I also gonna put it in the chat here. I'm gonna put it in the WebEx. I'm sorry, it's in the VBox, and I'm gonna paste it now in the WebEx.
Thank you.
And also on the ostmine.com.au website, there is a section supply challenges. So all of the expanded challenges are listed in the ostmine.com.au.
Thank you, Robert. Emphasis on using in-country third-party providers for aftermarket support.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you explain it a bit?
The question relates to the fact that if there needs to be a local presence for after sales.
Yes. Maintenance.
I would say it depends on the product or service that you are offering. Usually it helps to be closer to operations to have a quicker reaction in case things fail. So that means you can do that yourself by being there, or you can have a partnership with somebody that can deliver that service in case that an emergency maintenance to be done or a repair or something like that. But it's case by case analysis, I would say. There's no one solution fits all.
Yeah, I think it depends on the specific challenge, but a lot of them are focused on bottlenecks on the operation. So it's something that if they have any trouble, they want to solve very fast. So they don't want you probably to wait to take a plane from the other side of the world to answer and to solve that issue. So you need to, like, I think, answer or be very clear on how you're going to solve any kind of issue related with the pilot. for the final intended idea.
Thank you, Camila. You mentioned transfer of innovations globally. Some ideas may require customization locally. Would that lower the priority or attractiveness of a proposed innovation?
There's always, I think that all of our miners think that their operations are the most special and most different in the world. I think that there's always going to be needed some kind of customization to the solution. I think what a very appealing proposal is the one that needs some customization, but not that much. You know, I think that in every site, we will need to address what's the specific condition there and make some small adaptations. But the idea of these proposals, and also you will see that the challenges are very transversal to the industry and to our mines. So if it's applicable to one of our operations, it will be applicable to the next. And the idea is that it will have more appealing if it's easily transferable.
Thank you, Maria Jose. Are projects managed by an Expande and BHP project manager or team?
Once the project is awarded, once the pilot is awarded, it's managed by a cross-functional BHP team. So there are people, the operations own it. So the champion of the project is a person in the operation, I don't know, maintenance, operations, in some of those areas. And they have the support of this team, of the supply innovation team, and also other areas like technology, like engineering, etc.
Yeah, just to make it clear, Expand is a connector. So our role limits to making the connection. Once something has been awarded, it's among the BHP and the company that has been awarded challenge, every single step out next to that project. So we just keep our role to connecting demand and supply.
Great. Can you give detail on how challenges are generated within BHP?
The way we do this for this process is during our yearly plan cycle. We call that the CAP cycle, Company Alignment Plan. So we plan first the life of the asset, and depending on the asset, that's many, many years. And then we narrow it down to 5 years. So that's when we identify what the challenges that we have for the next 5 years are, where are the bottlenecks, and that we need to address within these 5 years. That's when we prioritize those challenges where we know that we need innovation, where we have tried everything, it hasn't worked, it hasn't delivered the results that we need. So we know that we need to do something different, we know that we need innovation, and that we cannot create it inside because we don't have all the answers. So we need to go outside and look for new answers. That's the kind of challenges that we prioritize at that stage of that CAP process. And then we take that to the market. We do that internally. We do it with the general managers and the managers of the different areas. We come up, they come up with a long list, and then we prioritize that list according to value, and we select a number of projects depending on where the bottlenecks are and the value that they can create.
Very well. Do we have time for more questions, Maria Jose, Andres, Robert?
I would say maybe one more question and then we bring it to a close.
Okay. Have an established evaluation criteria.
We do. We have established evaluation criteria, but we also tweak it a little bit depending on the particular challenge. Okay, so we might add some criteria, take out some other, but it's basically the same most of the time. It has to do with the experience of the team that is involved in the challenge, the experience of the company, That doesn't mean that it has to be a very well-established company. It has to do with, it can be a startup, it can be a young company, but the relevant experience that they've had in similar challenges, experience of their team, and also the impact that this solution can have in the mind, the degree of differentiation. How different is this from things that we've seen before, that we probably have tried before that haven't worked? So how this is different. I think that that's the most important one. And also the way that you are planning to address the challenge. So how are you planning to address it in a way that de-risks the technological risk? That means how did you set up the stages that you will go through to know early on in the process if this is going to work or not? Because here in innovation, if we want to fail, we want to fail quickly and we want to fail cheap. So that's also something that we look at in detail. So I would say general experience in similar challenges of the team, of the company, and then really important, how this is different from what we've seen before, because we are looking for new things when we go into this process, and how are you planning to address the challenge is really important as well.
Two things. Just want to let you know that I just started the survey, so you can now start answering the survey, which is the third button to the right up on the VBox interface. And also, Maria Jose, I was going to ask you, can you mention something about who makes the final decision?
All the decisions are made by the BHP team for awarding. So the way that the awarding process works is that once we received all the proposals, then we open the technical proposals. We review them against these evaluation criteria. We rate them. Those that make the technical cut, they move to the next stage, that is the negotiation. And that's when we meet with the different suppliers to address their economical proposals. And once we did all the analysis, then we award one supplier. And that is done by this team, the supply innovation team, and the operations.
Okay, I would suggest that we bring this to a close because we are a little bit over time. We will be thinking how we can respond to the reminder of the questions. Maybe we can answer them in writing and post it on our website. So I would like to thank again Maria Jose Araneda from BHP and Andres Mitnick from Expander for your presentations. This is certainly a beginning of collaboration. It is a great opportunity for Australian MES to engage with Chile, with opportunities in Chile. I would like to also to thank my other colleagues at BHP and Expander and Ostmine who worked very hard behind the scenes to make bring this webinar across the Pacific. Thank you for joining for this webinar. Thanks to our members, supporters, and friends. We run, as you know, in this interesting times, we run lots of webinars, actually webinars only for the time being. So there are other webinars I would like you to be alerted to. Please visit our website on a regular basis and tune in to other webinars. We will be bringing another webinar with Expander sometime in the course of this year to basically bring new challenges, maybe some updates. So stay tuned. Just talking about Chile, I would like to let you know that Expo Min, if you don't know, has been now rescheduled to the 9th, from the 9th to the 11th of November this year. But it is this uncertain times. Please stay tuned that for this to be confirmed. Anyway, without much ado, thanks again. Stay safe. Have a nice day and buenas noches.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.